create solid governments that are going to be able to serve residents best. Maintaining this momentum through stable government will also help us not to waste this historic opportunity to chart a new course for our country. What happened on the 1st of November and in the 3.5 weeks since has really been a watershed moment in our country's democracy and our history as a democracy. I think the significance of these developments is yet to fully sink in, and it's going to require some passage of time and a slightly wider vantage point to truly grasp what we are going through right now. In short, the past month has seen our country step off the edge of a quarter of a century of one-party dominance and into a brand new future that is, to borrow that well-worn slogan, alive with possibilities. We have often spoken of this moment in the past, of a post-ANC South Africa, where liberation movement finally makes way for a healthy and truly multi-party democracy. That moment has now arrived. What this means is that not just our party, but indeed the whole country is going to have to get a lot better over the next 5 years at collaborating and working together, finding each other. We've now entered the era of coalitions and cooperative governance. And this is going to call for a maturity in our politics that I think has been missing for far too long now. The days of operating political silos are over. The sooner we can figure out who our allies are in this mission of building better cities and building stronger and safer towns and communities, the better off everybody in our country will be. And so I want to say to all of our mayors here today, you will find these allies all around you. They might sit in the council chamber under the banner of a different party, but many of them want to see the same improvements to people's lives as you do. We have to find ways to still remain firm and true to our principles while building and maintaining bridges with council colleagues from other parties. And nowhere is this more important than in the minority governments, and particularly the Gauteng metros, where we're going to have to sit down with these other parties and write a whole new chapter on selfless and cooperative public service. Then you will have the allies outside of politics, but cooperation with them is no less important. And I really want to encourage our mayors to reach out to NGOs, to civil society, to churches and to educators. Pay attention to groups and individuals who approach you with suggestions. Be open to ideas, no matter where they come from. You'll all have allies in the world of business and industry too. You'd be amazed how many businesses genuinely want to be part of the solution and are willing to share their time and their expertise, but either don't yet trust political parties or have been ignored and simply dismissed by administrations in the past. You will also find that your towns and cities might have a wealth of talent and expertise that has perhaps already entered retirement, but still has a lot to offer. Don't let this treasure chest of experience go to waste. In short, the message to all of the mayors is simply this: look beyond your own benches, form partnerships, and take help when it is on offer. You have a massive responsibility, so don't try to do it all by yourself. A fair bit of that help is also going to come from the Democratic Alliance, which is what today's meeting has essentially been about. We have brought all of our mayors together to meet with the party leadership, as well as our governance unit, to outline the critical work that needs to take place in the coming months. Each mayor will receive the DA's Ready to Govern guide, which our governance unit has been painstakingly compiling over several years, and which covers critical parts of the job, such as legislation, budgets, appointments, and caucus management. But today is also about establishing working relationships between the mayors themselves. So much of the work that we do in government relies on experience and institutional knowledge. While we thrive on the fresh energy that our young leaders bring, we'd be lost without the wisdom and knowledge of those who have seen it all and done it all. Sessions like these allow us to spread this wisdom and knowledge, along with all the little tricks of the trade that make running a government or managing a multi-party coalition possible. And let me reaffirm what the DA brand means in government. When we say on our posters, our billboards and TV ads that the DA gets things done, it doesn't mean anything if that's not also what residents see in their communities. When we quite rightly point out that DA governments are far and away the most pro-poor governments in the country, we need to realize that to be the lived experience of all South Africans across all communities, of all the towns and cities where we are in charge. This cannot just be lip service and campaign slogans. It's got to go beyond that, which is why the immediate task before these 27 mayors and their administrations is to give life to the line that we get things done, and particularly in our country's most vulnerable communities. Of course, this challenge differs greatly in these different government situations. Where we've had stable governments with solid majorities over multiple terms resulting in healthy finances and proper budgets, our plans can include big innovations and investments. But where we are stepping into vulnerable governments and where municipal finances have been neglected and depleted over the years, there has to be a more incremental and conservative approach to turning things around. In these vulnerable metros and municipalities, our mayors are going to have to focus first and foremost on strengthening working coalitions, drawing up short-term plans for urgent delivery, and obtaining a detailed picture of the municipality from its financial status, debt and income, its infrastructure backlog, service delivery arrears, and current projects. This team of mayors knows what is expected of them in the coming months and years. They know that this important moment in our country's history comes with great opportunities, but also tremendous risks. They know that any DA government or DA coalition doesn't merely assume the regular duties of a local government. It also takes on the responsibility of shielding the residents from the failures of national government. It goes beyond the call of duty to keep residents safe where the SAPS has failed. It goes beyond the call of duty to fight for control of passenger trains where PRASA has failed. It goes beyond the call of duty to fight for control of a port where Transnet has failed. It goes beyond the call of duty to make its town or city load-shedding proof where Eskom has failed. And it takes on the responsibility to grow the local economy and create jobs despite the continuous failure by national government to do so. Now, these are immense responsibilities, but each and every mayor here has gladly shouldered them. And that fills me with hope and inspires confidence for the next 5 years. I will now call on our Shadow Minister for Local Government, Cilliers Brink, to introduce to you some of our newly elected mayors, who will briefly introduce themselves and give you a short overview of their vision and plans for their municipality. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. As John has mentioned, the pleasure of introducing this magnificence of DA mayors who will be speaking here today falls to me. And the first person to address us here today, I think I met when he was still the leader of the DA Students Organization at UCT. He told his community in this election, Cape Town works, but it can do more. And now he will have to show us what that more means. Jordan Hill-Lewis.
Dankie Cilliers. Hello colleagues, lovely to be with you. What an air of celebration, and rightly so. What a great feeling it was this morning to leave a DA-governed Cape Town, fly 2 hours and land in a DA-governed metro right on the other side of the country. It's great to be with you, and thank you for the invitation. In Cape Town, in my inaugural speech last week, I said that we want to build a city that makes every single South African, no matter where you live, whether you're a Cape Townian or not, proud, and instill a sense of hope about the very best that our country is capable of, that shows what South Africa can do, that the sense of anxiety and nervousness or worry that we all feel about the direction of our country under the ANC is not inevitable, and that it can be turned around with good, committed government that is committed to doing the right thing for the public and in service of the public. And the way that we are going to do that in Cape Town is by filling the void, the space left by the collapsing, slow burn collapse of the South African Police Service, and doing more to keep our communities safe by investing in our successful law enforcement program, deploying thousands of law enforcement officers onto the street and making people feel safer. By working very hard over the coming years, and that work has started already, to end load shedding in Cape Town, to be the first place in the country that is free of load shedding. And I know my colleague Giesi is giving me daggers behind because we're in a dead heat race to see who can do it first, but I'm afraid it's going to be us. And then to fight for greater control over the public rail system, which has collapsed under PRASA, who's just had another CEO suspended. We know that the only way to undo the legacy of the Group Areas Act over time is to have a functioning, safe, reliable, fast, affordable rail system in our metros across the country, and that will not happen under PRASA. To improve basic services, particularly for those living in poverty and the most vulnerable residents of our city, by investing in infrastructure that is necessary to support growth and making sure, as John says, that every person in their life feels and sees and knows the DA difference. By making Cape Town the easiest place on the African continent to do business and invest. By cleaning up our city with clean waterways, rivers, communities, and streets. And lastly, again, by ensuring that we can, over time, unstitch the legacy of the Group Areas Act, by advancing our public housing program and using state-owned land where we have it to release for more affordable housing and social housing for Cape Townians. In this way, ladies and gentlemen, we will build a city of hope and a city that can make every South African proud and can show the way that a future of inclusivity and care and mutual respect and shared prosperity is still possible in South Africa. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jordan. The Democratic Alliance did not expect to win the mayoral race in a few municipalities where we did, and that's part of what we have to deal with. One of those municipalities is Ekurhuleni, where the following DA mayor comes from. A truly accidental mayor, if that was ever an apt description, but somebody who has the benefit, I believe, of 21 years of experience as a local government councillor. Please welcome Tanya Campbell.
Thank you. Yes, the accidental mayor is quite a close description, but what I am honoured by is the absolute faith that the parties within Ekurhuleni, the opposition parties, have placed in my hands. They had asked me to carry the baton. Our party, the DA, has asked me to carry that baton, and it will be a difficult one to carry. However, if I do keep it simple and concentrate on what the community needs out there, it would be an easy task to do. Because not to reinvent a wheel, but to actually get services and basic services out to our communities. To make sure that the officials that are employed within Ekurhuleni actually carry out their duties that they are paid for. To stick to turnaround times when there is an electricity outage, when there is a burst water pipe, when there is a sewage spill. This basic service should not be negotiable. It should not be negotiable that officials are sitting in their offices, being paid huge salaries and not doing their work. I have been meeting with a lot of the parties within our municipality in the last couple of days. We are all going to be working together. We are not going to let Ekurhuleni collapse and go into more squalor than what it is. We are dedicated. I am dedicated as the mayor going forward to make sure that our communities and all communities will actually benefit by what they should be getting as residents of Ekurhuleni. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tanya. Joburg is the economic heartland of South Africa, but I believe that we can say that some of the arteries that keeps that heart beating are clogged. And so what Joburg really needs is a doctor, a real doctor. And that we have in Dr. Mpho, somebody who has experience as a professional, has experience in public administration, has experience in government. And so it is my pleasure to welcome the Mayor of Johannesburg, the DA Mayor of Johannesburg, Dr. Mpho.
Thank you, Celia. Thank you very much. I've said it over and over again throughout the campaign that I've discovered in every area that I've been to that the city of Johannesburg is broken. But I've also said that it can certainly be fixed again. Johannesburg is the economic hub of South
waste and the environment, creating safer communities, making sure that we have a transparent and responsive government, and making sure that we are available to the people at all times. My team is ready to hit the ground running. We have already tasked the general managers to put together departmental status quo reports, which will be the foundation or the building blocks of us to turn the municipality around. We have the CFO and our chairperson of the Finance Committee identifying cost savings and preparing for the budget reprioritization early next year. And we are ready to make sure that we stop focusing on the nice to haves and get back down to the basics. Our municipality has a small budget of 470 million rand, and we need to make sure that this goes as far as possible. In closing, today we launch our festive season campaign under the theme, Come and Create Memories in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. So whether you go to Cape Town, to Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was, or you go to Tshwane, where Nelson Mandela was the first president of the Democratic Republic, you can now also come to KwaZulu-Natal under a DA-led government to the Mandela Capture Site and enjoy a holiday under the Mgeni municipality. Thank you very much.
Chris, it really feels that we needed some drum beats and applause after you spoke there, instead of just the silence we have here. So maybe we should give him a round of applause here. There we go, there we go. Feeling better already. So the next DA mayor, freshly minted, I heard about for the first time when we were fighting a by-election in Thabazimbi. And that was just a few years ago. Of course, she had been a community leader and involved there for many years. And today, Thabazimbi has a new DA mayor, Toki Swanepoel. And let's give her a round of applause to welcome her. Jy mag maar Afrikaans ook praat, Toki.
Goeiedag almal. Wat 'n ongelooflike voorreg is dit nie vandag vir my om hier te staan nie. Die 1 November was dit 'n groot verrassing vir ons gewees wat gebeur het. En as ons met laasweek met die verkiesing van ons bestuur was dit absoluut 'n 1% kans dat die DA wel daar sou beheer neem. Dit is vir my 'n ongelooflike voorreg om vandag hier rond te staan en te kan weet dat ons wel 'n verskil in Thabazimbi sal bring. Dit is vir my ook baie, ekskuus tog net my. It is for me also, I'm a girl born in Thabazimbi, bred in the bushveld, and I grown up and I was always fighting for the basic services and for everything in Thabazimbi. It is for me a sincere, humble opportunity to address you on the vision for going forward, following my recent inauguration as the mayor of Thabazimbi against all other odds. My views and dreams during my term as mayor is to address the following with due action planning, target setting and uncompromised effort at all levels across the municipality and its structures. It is the resilience of the people at all levels of our community to inherit synergies across cultural, religious and party politics. Divides will be promoted effortlessly with the acknowledgement of the basic goodness of us all as human beings. No compromises to sound governance and related practices will be tolerated and will be monitored and enforced with the rule of law with the public and private support. The financial management and reporting irregularities and the practices that have been reported will be addressed and comply with the PFMA and related legislations. Ons sal baie graag ook die upskilled van die nuwe raadslede wil doen. Ons huidige amptenare wat daar werk en ook al die werkers wat in die munisipaliteit sal wees, om seker te kan maak dat ons wel die korrekte diens kan lewer aan ons mense. It is very, very important for us to make sure that our basic services must be uplifted and all the problems with the water, the sanitation, the electrical shortcomings will be addressed. The dumping of all the littering, we will stop, and we will want to make sure that our public learn not to do the incorrect things. Another one is we want to make sure that Thabazimbi will become a safe place and have good security. We would fight very much the drugs that's happening there and all violence around. The health campaigns, we will also look at that and make sure that it will be promoted. We want to uplift and skill our young children and our young people that is at this moment very high in unemployment. We also want to make sure that the job creation is getting more in Thabazimbi area. All the long outstanding title deeds that is at this moment, some of them more than 26 years, given to the owners of the properties. We want to make sure that the voice of the people is being heard. We want to make sure that local business opportunities is enhanced, tourism and all the mines that we want to work with together and make sure that Thabazimbi become a much better place to stay in, and also in the tourism sector make sure that everybody knows where Thabazimbi is. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Toki. The last mayor that will be speaking here today, I will introduce in a moment. Of course, these are just a selection of the mayors, the ones that will be speaking, and many others will be available for interviews later on. The last mayor to speak here today is the new DA mayor of the Beyers Naudé local municipality in the Eastern Cape, somebody with a long track record of service in the municipal council and in public life, Ewald Luke.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Dr. Beyers Naudé is in the heart of the Karoo, and the main town there is Ekurhuleni. The head office of the municipality is in Ekurhuleni, with several very beautiful Karoo towns in that area. Currently, the municipality is suffering from a financial crisis, and that financial crisis hamper the service delivery in that area. About 60% of the households in Dr. Beyers Naudé are poor and indigent. You know, the footprints of the late Dr. Beyers Naudé and Robert Sebukwe is in this area, in this town, Ekurhuleni, and I wonder at times, what will these two gentlemen say when they walk through the streets of this towns of this Dr. Beyers Naudé municipality? I do think since the merging of the municipality in 2016, that the ANC governed council did not honor the names of these two very known gentlemen in our area. We as DA governed council, we are committed to rectify the situation. We do have a 4-pillar plan to recover or to turn around the municipality. And that plan is, first of all, to deal with the finances of the municipality, to restore the prettiness and the character of the towns in that area, to bring back discipline and oversight in the municipality, and lastly, to look at how we can address this 60% poor households. In Afrikaans sal ons sê, there's no tyd om die wa oor die berg te trek. Baie dankie.
And thank you very much to our mayors, and thank you to our federal leader for setting the agenda for the next 5 years and giving our mayors from across the country their marching orders. We are now going to open the floor for questions. However, this is how we're going to do it. The questions are going to be directed to the federal leadership, and one-on-one interviews with all the mayors will be granted in the same building in a different venue. Otherwise, if we have one-on-one questions to all 22 people, we will be here all afternoon. So we're going to open the floor to some questions. I'll take 2 rounds of questions from the chair there, and I will allocate to the federal leadership, and we can get this going. And then afterwards, members of the media are free to have one-on-one sessions with all the various mayors downstairs. Thank you. Any questions? Natasha, please remember to introduce yourself and the media house where you come from.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Natasha Pugh from SABC News. My question is directed to the federal chairperson of the DA, Ms. Helen Ziller. Ms. Ziller, yesterday we attended the briefing by EFF leader Julius Malema, and he had said that he claims to have uncovered your plan with the ANC, and hence he actually voted against the ANC and somewhat aided the DA and the DA mayors. Can you just please respond to that? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Natasha. Second question? Yes, sir. You, and then I'll come to you.
My name is Franz Modise from Garankuwa FM in Tshwane. Firstly, I will direct my questions to Mr. John Steenhuisen. To say firstly, I noticed that the mayor of Tshwane is absent. Should we read anything into that absentia? My second question, you mentioned that as you were giving your marching orders, that the mayors must be ready to work with allies outside politics. Now, one of those allies is a church, one of the big churches in KZN, Shembe Church, which has called for its members not to go out and vote because they were not happy with the ANC. Are you planning to engage such allies to find to forge partnership with them? And the third question is, how ready is the DA for post-ANC South Africa, given that negotiations are still ongoing in many municipalities, and of course it would seem that some of the as you said that you have Tanya was not was not expecting to be elected. I think also Randall, it was a surprise. So how ready is DA for post ANC South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to take one question from the gentleman in red and from the gentleman behind him, and I'm going to close this round. Colleagues, I'm going to close this round and then I'm going to open another one. Colleagues, please do also note that we had to put together this workshop, but some of our mayors were not able to come because there's a number of issues that are going on in their various municipalities. And I don't think it's any indication of anything untoward. There's various things going on. There's floods in the Southern Cape. There's a lot going on. And so those who were able to make it, and a lot of them are here, were able to make it, but some people were unable to move certain things. Yes, sir.
Thanks. My name is Longani. I'm from CFM. My question is that there is that perception that the DA is not a pro-poor party, and that in most municipalities, the DA does not take poor people first. My question is that what is the DA going to do to ensure that that perception is removed and that the budget is passed and that everybody within communities do benefit, especially people from the township?
Thank you so much. There's one more question there, and then I'm going to ask John to come up and Helen to come up, and then I'll take the last round.
Thank you so much. My name is Govan Whittles from ENCA. I'd like to find out in which municipalities has the DA resigned itself to forming minority governments, minority coalitions, or are you still hoping to negotiate for a coalition that's a majority in all these municipalities? And are you able to say at this stage whether these talks with Action SA are continuing, or is that no longer happening? And then something that's not to do with the mayors, if I could just get clarity, does the Democratic Alliance believe that it was incorrect for that panel of scientists yesterday to release the information about the variant because of the impact it's had on South Africa's economic viability over the festive season? Thank you.
Thanks, John. If you can come and just address some of the questions. And I think with ENCA regarding the announcement that was made, we can handle that straight after this press conference. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the questions. Please don't read into the fact if any mayors are absent. It's because they've got other duties that they needed to attend to. And our training course is ongoing, and we will be announcing also a bit later in the month an online training, ongoing training and collaboration between our governance unit and those mayors. When I spoke very carefully about bringing on partners that are not necessarily in the political sphere, it speaks to our new approach to fixing local government, which what we call the whole of society approach. We're accepting of the fact that our municipalities across the length and breadth of South Africa are in a deep crisis. And having spent 4 months on the road, you start to appreciate just how deep that crisis is. And the reality is that there's no single political party in this country that's going to be able to turn around many of those municipalities without a whole of society approach, where you activate the entire community towards fixing that municipality. And so I think the time has now come for local government particularly to be reaching out to organized labor, organized business, organized agriculture, CBOs, Rotary clubs, places like that, to collaborate with the municipality to address many of those services. The reality is, and Jordan in his previous incarnation as our finance minister would tell you that the government's finances are in such a terrible state that the reality is that many of these municipalities that are represented today have had significant cuts in their budgets, particularly those that deal with service delivery and those issues relating to service delivery. And so municipalities are going to have to do more with less And they're going to have to come up with creative ways to be able to address service delivery backlogs, fighting poverty, dealing with hunger and starvation, making sure that we focus on getting children to school safely, keeping children in school. And I think there's a role for local government to play, but I think there's a whole of society approach that we need to foster. And what hurts, what makes me sad and quite angry is when you hear the willingness of people to get in. And I use the example of Lichtenburg. What the news reports probably haven't told you is that the factory, Clover factory, that has since closed down and moved, approached the municipality over a long period of time to try and address those service delivery problems that were making their business impossible. They even came to the municipality with a significant sum of money and said to the municipality, we would like to contribute. They were met with the answer, well, what's in it for me? And it's exactly that reason that a place like Clover Dairy has now left Lichtenburg and taken the jobs. We've seen the poultry business leave Standerton. Business wants to help. Civil society wants to help. What they need is a government with an open door to new ideas and that assistance. And I've committed our party through our whole of society approach to maintaining that open door with community organizations, with organized business, with labor, with these civil society bodies, that if they've got ideas, if they want to help, if they feel there's a contribution, if there's impediments to the help, that they must come and speak to our mayors, and we will have an open door to them. So we have an open door to churches like the Shembe Church to see what we can do to help them and to see how they can help municipalities, not in the narrow furtherance of a particular interest, but in the broader interest of those communities which we serve. People want one thing and one thing only from local government. They want service delivery that keeps them safe, that creates jobs and lifts them out of poverty. That's what people want. And we can't do it on our own, and we're calling for civil society to work with us to be able to turn those things around. Are we ready for a post-ANC South Africa? We were born ready for a post-ANC South Africa. We've been telling the South Africa for a long time that the only way we're going to be able to get out of this terrible low growth, high debt, high unemployment trajectory is if we shake off the yoke of ANC one-party domination. I think this local government election has been a psychological threshold that has been passed. South Africans can now see a post-ANC environment where you've got different parties coming together, putting aside their ideological differences to try and find a common pathway to deliver services and deal with the poverty crisis and unemployment crisis in South Africa. And I think that's a very healthy development and one which we're going to help develop, which is why it's important that we find stability in these metros. Because I want to be able to go to voters hands on heart heading into the 2024 election to show that multi-party government can be stable, it can work, but most importantly, it can deliver. And that will hopefully give people confidence when they cast their vote at a provincial and national level to put their trust in parties that will have had a proven track record of working together collaboratively. And that's why I've extended the hand and said we're willing to work humbly, responsibly, and in a mature way with any parties who share those values and principles. We've also had a governance unit that's been working, not in the last week, but in the last several years, preparing our party to be able to get into government, which is why we've got, sorry, Helen, if I may just, why we've got this document. It's a comprehensive document that we can put in the hands of every one of our mayors now, which will help them navigate these heady days of setting up administrations and the like. So we are absolutely ready to govern. I think that we've shown that where we've been given the opportunity to govern, that we get things done, which is why Horatio sits today with a DA majority. It's why Geesie van Deventer sits with a DA majority, and we've got a DA majority in Cape Town. We can get things done. But we accept that voters have also sent us a message that they would like other parties to work together. And we will commit to this new politics, and we will go into it with good faith, with humility, and with a single determination to turn things around at a local government level, to lift people out of poverty, and to make sure that things can happen. And that leads me to the second question that was asked. The DA is the most pro-poor party in South Africa. And I don't think we say it often enough and demonstrate it often enough, what we're doing in our governments. And that's why I was very, very proud to sit in the gallery when Jordan Hill-Lewis was being inaugurated as the Mayor of Cape Town, to hear him talk about one of his first acts of office is going to reallocate savings in his budget towards assisting indigent residents in the city with a pro-poor package. I can tell you there is no metro government in the country that is doing more for indigent and poor South Africans than the DA-led majority in the city of Cape Town. If you look at the work that's being done in places where the DA governs, in Stellenbosch, the innovations there around housing, transport, lifting people out of poverty, job creation, these are all things that are pro-poor. If you look at a place like Tshwane, where I was privileged a few weeks ago to walk around with Randall Williams, one of the most world-class social housing projects that I've seen right in the city centre. That's going to put poorer South Africans closer to work opportunities and able to live in a live, work and play environment that's going to fundamentally change the trajectory of their lives. And these are the things that I'm proud about, and we're going to roll out. We're not happy to sit back and say, well, this is what we've done. We want to do more. But let me just tell you that one of the most pro-poor things that you can do is to first of all make sure that the money is not stolen in a municipality. Because corruption is not a victimless crime. Corruption in South Africa robs from the people who are sitting at home with no job, with no house, with no prospects, and in an unsafe environment. Those are the real victims of corruption in South Africa. And so if you can ensure that governance is clean and accountable, and that every cent of public money is being spent on the public and not on politicians, that is probably one of the most pro-poor things you can do, because it means then that there's more money to be able to be sent out to fix that infrastructure, to build those houses, to create those job centers, and to get the economies moving so we can lift people out of poverty and into opportunity. And so if you're a poor South African, if you're one of the 30 million South Africans trapped in poverty, living below the poverty line in South Africa, I want to tell you that you have no better ally in South Africa than this party, the Democratic Alliance. And we've committed our governments to governing in a pro-poor way that addresses the inequalities of the past and ensures that we start to lift people out of poverty and into opportunity. If we can get people into work, if we can get people's life trajectory improving, well, it means that you're going to create more ratepayers in cities. More people are going to be able to pay for services. And that allows you to then extend those services to even more poor South Africans. So that is the commitment of us. There is no more pro-poor party in South Africa. And we are the only party in South Africa that's actually speaking to speaking up for the 30 million South Africans who are trapped in poverty and who don't have a seat at the table currently because they're trapped in an insider-outsider economy. They're trapped with organized labor with a seat at the table. It doesn't speak up for the unemployed. And with a corrupt administration that's more interested in extraction than distribution. And those are the things that we are committed to combating, and it's what we've done where we're in government, which is why clean, accountable government, clean audits, good auditor general results are so important for us. Why are they important? Well, if you're not stealing the money, you've got more money to spend on precisely those people who we need to be helping. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm not quite sure what exactly your question was, but I have some inkling because I was on Aldrin St. Pierre's show yesterday, and he asked me the same question. And I was puzzled by it, and he played a section of Julius Malema's press conference yesterday. And I listened to it carefully, and I couldn't work out quite what Julius was saying, and Aldrin kindly translated it as follows. He said to me, Julius is saying that you made an agreement with Cyril Ramaphosa to keep the EFF out or to do something like that. I don't know what the agreement was supposed to have been, but basically the nub of it was that we had made an agreement with Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, there was no agreement at all with Cyril Ramaphosa. In fact, the only agreement that I knew that was being negotiated, and everybody knows that it was being negotiated, was an attempt, facilitated by Julius, that he should be given the city of Tshwane to govern, that Herman Mashaba and Action SA be given the city of Johannesburg to govern, and that the ANC be given the city of Ekurhuleni to govern. And the idea was, and it was widely publicized, that they would then take over those governments completely, the other parties would go into opposition, and it would be like handing out the sweets at a children's birthday party. You have this lollipop, you have this lollipop, you have that lollipop. Now, the DA does not go into those kinds of arrangements. And this election was all about the DA versus the ANC. Let me just give you one example of how I was very, very much involved in that battle. Before the election, a month before the election, which is a very short time before the election, the DA was polling at 34% in Nelson Mandela Bay. And that was really bad because the ANC was polling at 48%. And our tracking poll is very good. And that is when John called me in and said, Zilla, you're going to Nelson Mandela Bay till the election and your mandate is to beat the ANC. And I went to Nelson Mandela Bay with that one sole mandate, to beat the ANC. And we worked in a team, and I only slotted into a team led by other very capable people and our mayoral candidate, Ngababanga, and a range of other people. And we worked our fingers to the bone, and we pulled the ANC below 40%, and we did beat them just by 0.5%, but we still did. Now, that was the major battle playing itself out all over the country, because our goal in this election was to bring the ANC below 50%. And that is what we and other parties together did. And that was the key achievement of this election. We broke the cycle and the entrenched pattern of single-party dominance in South Africa. That was our brief. And when I listened to Julius's words and heard you repeating the gist of them now, although I didn't hear them myself except on Aldrin St. Pierre's show, I thought to myself, he's acting like a jilted lover. Because you will remember in 2016, we had a kind of relationship with Julius. It was one of the biggest mistakes the DA ever made, and I will concede that right up front. But we went into some kind of, not engagement, but I suppose a long-term on-off dating relationship in which they gave us minority governments, but expected us to be true to them and not date anyone else. And we saw that that ended up in a full-blown relationship between one of our mayors and Julius Malema, which exists to this day, although he's now in another party. So this time around, we said absolutely no way. We are going into no arrangement whatsoever with the EFF. We were approached to please support the EFF mayor in Rustenburg. We said no. I had no idea that Julius Malema was going to support us anywhere in the country because we had broken off that long-term distant dating relationship very firmly. And so we said absolutely not. And to take that analogy a little bit further, I think at that point he became like the guy who takes his girl for granted, but then when he hears another guy might be going to date her on the rumor mill, he makes darn sure that he intervenes, lets down the tires of the other guy's car so that she can't date anybody else. Now that was a rumor, but he kiboshed that by saying, I'm going to make you dependent on me. I'll vote for you first. which he then did, to our complete surprise. But I need to have news for him. We are not going to be dependent on him. We are not going to be bought and captured and controlled by the EFF. We will stand by our principles. We won't pay heed to what he says on the rumour mill. We will continue to build a country that Africa can be proud of. We will continue to build a country where we beat poverty through the only mechanism that has ever worked in a democracy, which is to have policies that grow the economy and create jobs. And we will not be taken off course by statements of people who believe in the exact opposite: racial nationalism, failed socialist policies, and a direction that will take this country to ruin. We know where we are going. We are working very hard to bring together the rational, logical, committed, non-racial centre of South African politics, and that is what we will continue doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Helen and John. And we're going to take the last round of questions, please. Yes, sir, in the grey jacket. And sir with the white mask, Lizega. And I'm closing soon. Going, gone. All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you. It's Govan again from ENCA. Just wanted to ask again whether or not there are any municipalities where the DA has resigned itself to accepting it will run a minority government, or are you still trying to form those majority coalition governments? And then Mzila, what does non-dependence on the EFF look like? Is that a refusal to consider any proposals by the EFF that it would want in municipalities where it gave the DA the unsolicited vote, and then an acceptance of not getting the EFF vote in big items that require passing? And then Mzila, if I could get your comment on what happened in Nelson Mandela Bay with Retief Odendaal going back to the GP legislature, the abstention or the absence of the DA councillor there had a material effect on the outcome of the election. Could you just explain what happened there, or do you believe things could have come out differently in Nelson Mandela Bay if he was there? Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. I will allocate the huge part of that question to you, John. I think it was missed the first time round. Yes, sir.
My name is Saul Kamiansky, and I'm a journalist for the Jewish Report newspaper. I'd just like to ask two questions. What is the DA stance on Miss SA participating in Miss Universe in Israel in December? And my second question is, there was a South African-born man killed in a terrorist attack in Jerusalem last Sunday. The government has been silent. I mean, he was killed by Hamas in Jerusalem in a terrorist attack. The government has been silent. What is does the DA have a statement they would like to share on that? Thank you.
Thank you. So what my colleague and I will do, we'll handle on all non-local government related questions afterwards. So the question around the vaccines and the question we will handle later. Lizeka.
Lisa Gatano from the Mail and Guardian. Just bear with me, I have a couple of questions. John, we've heard a lot about accidental mayors in this presser. Tanya, sorry for that. And it leads us to believe that the DA didn't put that much of its capacity in these metros where it accidentally had mayors. So I wonder, in terms of the skills component, what exactly has been done to ensure that, very important metropolitans such as Ekurhuleni have the proper skills component in terms of officials and people who will be working with Tanya to ensure basic services are delivered. I'm also interested in whether you have a concern around recruitment in these metros because of the instability of these coalitions. I wonder if when you're looking at, for instance, Tanya's metro, you're looking at Mpo's metro, is there a concern around how you'll be recruiting this personnel that you'll so greatly be needing? My second question is, I understand that Mr. James Self has resigned or retired, and I think all of you can agree that he was one of the people that was bringing in institutional memory and expertise in governance. I'm wondering if this will have an adverse effect on how you properly train these young, diverse mix of mayors, especially the young mayors without any experience in governance. How do you plan to do that in such a short space of time? Historically, John, your message has been around, especially when it comes to elections, your message has been around the DA, where the DA governs, we do better, or we fix things for, I'm sorry, you'll forgive me. But where you govern, you have always highlighted how great your governance is. And in the Nelson Mandela Bay, in particularly when the coalition overtook you, after Ethel Trollip's motion of no confidence, you were very determined to highlight the failures of that coalition. I wonder if, given that we're going into 2024 and you need to start looking at that election, and these unstable coalitions that you say yourself could be short-lived, will that not work against you in campaigning? We've got parties like the ANC who will be leveraging will be leveraging against you in terms of, the instability, and they'll be pointing fingers at you as the DA more than any other party, including Action SA. Helen, I also concur with Govan. I really wonder, because I keep hearing your name in this Retief Ordinal situation, where I keep hearing from people in the DA in Nelson Mandela Bay that you were the one who actually instructed him to go back to Bisho. What was the logic around that? Thank you so much.
All right, cool. That concludes our Q&A. John, if you can come up and you can deal with the question from the gentleman from ENCA, the relevance and of these elections from Lizega, and then I think Helen, perhaps Helen, you can just quickly come and deal with the NMB matter, and then you can conclude, John. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Retief and I worked shoulder to shoulder in the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro to try and beat the ANC and put together a coalition government. Now, I am amazed at how often my name comes up in South African politics on issues that have absolutely nothing to do with me. When people go and cut off water in a Pretoria suburb, they say Zille sent us to cut off this water. It's bizarre. When people phone me from Bloemfontein because they have a problem, they say, well, Zille says that she will help you fix it. I don't know where and how my name comes up on all these things. It is totally crazy, and I don't know whether to feel flattered or insulted. Nevertheless, be that as it may. I, more than anybody else, would have loved the DA to be in government in Nelson Mandela Bay. That was my biggest project in this election campaign, apart from doing all the preparatory work for coalitions. This was my biggest project. And when the results came, I knew that it would have to be an 8 or even 9-party coalition government, and having myself run a 7-party coalition government, I knew how difficult that was, and I knew how almost ungovernable an 8 or 9 party coalition would be. Nevertheless, I had a lot of confidence that if anybody could do it, it was the team in Nelson Mandela Bay. And I was hoping, like anything, that we would win. I didn't speak to Retief once about his decision as to whether to go back to Bishu or whether to take up his seat in the council. Never once. I assumed that all the elected councillors would be there, and I assumed that we would have a full complement on a 3-line whip at that election. But the truth is that Nelson Mandela Bay fell on a different point. When the DA refused to be dragooned into the strategy of the EFF in Johannesburg, the UDM withdrew their support from us in Nelson Mandela Bay. And smaller parties that had been with us switched sides because we were taking a very principled line in Gauteng, on the Gauteng metros. So very sadly, that government went to the ANC, and I hope the ANC's mayor there is up to handling a 8 or 9 party coalition. Because that, we'll know on Tuesday, because that is going to be the most difficult coalition that South Africa has ever had up till now, and probably ever will have. Because with the consequences of that, you're likely to see the faith in voting for scores and scores of tiny one-person parties potentially evaporate amongst voters who want stable government in South Africa. So that's the answer on Retief. You are asking what the EFF strategy is. Was that your question, Govan?
No, what non-cooperation...
What non-cooperation means. Okay, good. Thank you very much. What non-cooperation means. It means that we will not do what was done before, where the EFF expects from outside of government to start dictating to the parties inside government what to do. That's the kind of quid pro quo that Julius Malema wanted before in this relationship that I've described as a long-distance dating relationship. He doesn't want to be in government. He wants to control the officials, their decisions, the tenders and contracts and the policies that are applied in government. And so he says, appoint this person as your municipal manager. Give this tender to this company. Ensure that you follow this policy. And if you don't, we will withdraw our support and your government will fall. And that is not the kind of relationship we envisage. And that is why, through the course of these negotiations, we were absolutely plain. And we said, we are prepared to be in opposition. We are not prepared to sell our souls. And it was that tough line that had the very unintended consequence of the people against whom we took the tough line actually voting for us and putting us into government. But it also had the sad unintended consequence of us losing Nelson Mandela Bay. And John may want to answer the question on the minority coalition, so I'm certainly going to stay out of it, and I've answered the question you wanted me to answer. Is that correct?
Thanks, Governor. I'm sorry, my handwriting was terrible, so I missed your first question. Obviously, what we want to try and do where we can is to turn those minority coalitions and minority governments into majority governments. So in a place like Johannesburg, we've already started reaching out and talking to other parties that we believe can come on board and form a majority. The same in Tshwane. It's obviously going to be a lot more difficult in a place like Ekurhuleni to do that, because the potential partnership pool is a lot smaller. But our first job, and Helen and I have already been busy with that this morning, is meeting with these others, some of whom were not part of the opposition voting bloc necessarily in any of these councils, but with whom we believe we can come together around a common set of objectives and a program of action in that constituency. Why do we want to do that? Precisely because we want the stability. We want to get a majority government that doesn't have to dance to the tune of whichever piper, whichever person is wanting to pay for the tune at that particular time. And I think that what those will do is give those mayors an opportunity to be able to develop medium and long-term plans outside of the short-term planning that needs to be done here. So that is the first priority. Where we can't, we will try and run those governments. But as Helen has said, and I've been very, very clear, and I want everyone to be clear again, that we're not going to govern with a gun against our head. It's not possible to govern effectively if you've got a gun against your head. And every single person behind here who is in that situation understands quite clearly that as much as we're prepared to serve, as much as we're prepared to give everything we can to make these governments work, if we end up with a situation where we have to betray our principles in order to keep that government in place, that we will be quite happy to go back onto the opposition benches and be a constructive and an excellent opposition there, just as we are in other councils and in legislatures and in Parliament. So no one is going to dictate to us what our value set and what our principle set should be. Those principles guide us, and our federal executive has been very, very clear throughout the negotiating process that it is precisely those values and principles which had to determine our approach to the negotiation. So first focus, stability. Second focus, trying to then govern and govern well and come up with a program of action. The question that Helen asked as well, well, of course, the EFF will be players in those municipalities. And I've said the DA's doors not closed to any party that comes up with a good idea around which perhaps we can address poverty, deal with infrastructure backlogs. And so they will be just as entitled as any party in the council to put forward ideas. There's no party in this country that's got a monopoly on good ideas. And as I've committed our mayors to, we will be a listening party that listens to all good ideas, no matter where they came from. And so that will also be present there. Lizeka, frankly, you talk about the capacity in Ekurhuleni. I mean, I think that any DA administration just has to get up in the morning and start breathing, and it would do a better job than what's currently there. I mean, everything that municipality has touched has turned to corruption, to failure, to maladministration, whether it was chemical toilets, whether it was so-called Airtropolis, that was the big plan a few years ago. Everything that's touched has turned to rubbish. I have full faith in Tanya's ability to be able to do what needs to be done. She has been there far longer, actually, than Mayor Messina was, 21 years. She's been there for 21 years. There are very few people in Ekurhuleni that understand better what needs to be done there. She understands the rates problem there. She understands now the big new fight around the valuation role. She understands these things at a granular level. And that's exactly why she's going to be an excellent mayor in Ekurhuleni, and she's going to get things done. And we're going to put around her a team, and there already is a team of councillors there that are exceptionally competent. And there are officials that are already employed in that municipality. Obviously, we'll make sure that there's good, clean, accountable government there. But there are people who will come around and assist. And our governance unit is not some creation that popped up overnight to be a monitoring unit. It's something that's been in place for many, many years. So I have no doubt that we'll be able to recruit good people in to assist there. And people coming in to assist DA governments will be absolutely under no illusion, as we've just told the voters, that we will not govern with a gun to our head, that if we are forced to make a choice between good governance and rent seeking, we will always choose good governance. If we have to make a choice between doing something to make a politician happy rather than the people happy, we would always choose making the people happy and delivering to the people. And so that will be our choice, and they will know that. We were able to attract good people into Nelson Mandela Bay, into that administration, because they believed and shared in the values of good governance and accountability. And talent goes and follows, you will see, talent follows good, clean, accountable governance. The best municipal officials are attracted to well-run local councils because they give them an opportunity to be able to fulfill their dreams and desires as officials in an environment where they are not treated as a party membership card or voting fodder. They're treated as somebody who is a professional, a local government professional, and wants to be able to make that difference. We'll be paying tribute to Lezeka, to James Self, later this month. And let me just at this juncture thank James for his over 40 years of service to the Democratic Alliance, and we are greatly enriched by his presence. He developed the concept of lawfare in South Africa and is responsible for many of the great legal precedents that now stand in the political arena and which we still fall back on and rely on today. It is James's own choice to seek retirement. He's not resigning from the party. He's made it very clear that he's going to remain a loyal, dedicated member, and we will be able to draw on his experience over that time. But I have full confidence that the time that he spent as the head of the governance unit has been a sufficient time for a skills impartation. But I also think that it's also time for some renewal in that governance unit, particularly as we're going to have to start thinking differently about governance and this new environment of cooperative, consensus-seeking local government that's going to focus on that. And I've no doubt that the new team are really excited about the prospects of writing the new script for this new era of politics going forward. Where we govern well. Well, that's an irrefutable truth. And if you want to only just look at any one of the independent reports, whether it's the News 24 Index, whether it's Ratings Africa, whether it's the Auditor General's report, whether it's a Cooperative Governance Department's own report, DA governments are consistently on the top of the log and are achieving excellent things, and that is going to continue. So I don't think that, as I said, what we're going to be doing is seeking stability. And I think that what people want to see is a party that's trying its best to form governments that focus on delivering services to the people. And that's going to be our focus. We certainly don't want to govern in an unstable way and in a way that makes it very, very difficult to govern. And that is precisely why we are still working. Obviously, these things take time as well. And I think if one looks at the situation in other countries where coalitions are a feature of their society, these coalition agreements often take months to compile. And look at what's recently happened in Germany. It's been, I think, over a month or two since their election. They're only now starting to come together. I think the time for forming coalitions, you need to find each other and agree on values and principles. That window of 14 days in South Africa is far too short, I believe. And so those talks are going to continue with parties, and we're very confident that we're going to be able to bring on board parties that want to put the people of South Africa first and to start writing this new exciting chapter in government. So I think that we will go into 2024, and I want to make it very, very clear to voters that that coalitions can be that stable form of government that delivers the difference to their lives and can change things for the better. And so we're very, very committed to making those coalitions stable and making them work together with the other partners within those coalitions to ensure that those municipalities achieve those objectives. And part of that is why we are making our coalition agreements public. And again, the ones that have been completed already, you can see on our website at www.da.org.za. You can see the ones we've signed already. And what they do is set out very clearly the principle for why the coalition is being formed, the value set to which that coalition is going to govern, the objectives of that coalition over the term of the 5-year office. And that's important because it means that you and the media and the people at home and the people who live in those municipalities have a document against which they can measure our progress and performance. And I don't think any other parties have ever done that before. And I think it is important that we're transparent, open and accountable, that these are not deals that are being done to give me a car here and a nice office there and you can wear the chain but we can appoint the municipal manager there. Those coalition agreements are there in black and white for people to see why they've been formed, the standards of conduct, the shared program of action, and what you can measure us on as a coalition over the period of that coalition's lives. And I think that going into 2024 will hopefully give voters the assurance that this is the new wave of the future and that we can bring the ANC below 50% and that we can bring a new era of post-ANC domination to bear that will hopefully lift South Africa off this current trajectory and onto a new trajectory of prosperity, hope, and growth, and most particularly showing people that we can lift people out of poverty and that we can beat this terrible scourge of unemployment in the country. Thank you.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings our press conference to a close. Thank you very much for coming through. What we're going to do now, the mayors are going to be at a different venue downstairs. If you seek to speak to any of them, they will be available for one-on-one interviews. And that is the full suite of our mayors that are here today. And we look forward to answering any of your questions with regards to any of their municipalities. And thank you very much.